Amazon has done a lot of amazing things for authors, opened up opportunities that authors could only have dreamed of in previous times. But there are also a lot of things about Amazon and things that Amazon does and things that authors do where they only think about Amazon all the time that really piss me off. And in this episode, we're going to get to some of those pet peeves and things that piss me off about Amazon and the way authors talk about Amazon.
Welcome to the Stark Reflections on Writing and Publishing podcast. There has never been a better time for writers. More information, options, and opportunities are available to you, but navigating these requires insight. Join Mark Leslie Lefebvre as he draws upon more than a quarter century of experience as a writer, a bookseller, and a trusted book industry consultant to explore and reflect on the writing and publishing landscape to help you make informed choices on your writer journey.
Hello, Reflectors, and welcome to episode 181 of the Stark Reflections podcast. This is your host, Mark Leslie Lefebvre. I'm going to explain. It's been a bit of a hectic week. Some really last-minute things came up. And so what this is a rant episode with rants from specific chapters and chapter segments from my forthcoming book, Wide for the Win. It's coming up right after this message from this episode's sponsor. This episode is sponsored by Findaway Voices. If you want to take your audiobooks wide to a platform of 40 plus retailer and library systems, Findaway Voices has you covered. Great platform that'll allow you to find professional narrators that you can collaborate with. There's opportunities within that, including the Voices Share program, where there's a royalty split program with your narrator that allows you to pay the narrator less per finished hour than the regular rate, and then a royalty split afterwards. It's a lot more flexible and a lot more friendly for both you and for the narrator. Great opportunity to collaborate and find new amazing talents that you can work with. If you have your audiobook ready to go, you can use Findaway Voices to get your book into those markets, including the library market, where I've made probably the most of my money has come from either the one copy, one user checkout, or the cost per checkout system for library borrows on my audiobooks. Findaway Voices has promotional opportunities as well in partnership with Chirp, which is owned by BookBub. And you can do promotions through Chirp. You can do promotions with Apple Books for audio. If you want to see how you can leverage Findaway to take your audio wide, check them out over at starkreflections.ca/Findaway. So yes, this is 2 back-to-back solo episodes, and I kind of have to apologize for that because I have a few interviews in the queue, but it takes a significant amount of time to edit the interviews, and I had some time today on Thursday to do that. Unfortunately, I got this last-minute call via my surgeon's office. I'm having hernia surgery on Tuesday, March 16th. And so the pre-op, I have to actually rush in today, this afternoon, Thursday. It was pretty much going to mess up my entire day. It's going to be hours and hours just to go in for this pre-op appointment, as well as a pre-COVID test, which happens on Saturday. So it's kind of like this last-minute things I'm just scrambling to fit into my calendar. I've had to, unfortunately, even cancel a couple appointments I had one-to-ones with authors because I can't tell the surgeon who fit me in after a year of waiting for this hernia surgery. He's like, no, I can't make it because I have a meeting. So it's really important, and I'd like to not have this intestine hanging out my stomach, popping out my belly button, because it's not like I've been on a beach in a while, but it's kind of disconcerting looking for other people. Like, hey, a bit of your stomach's hanging out of your body. And it's not just my beer gut. It's that. So anyways, with that in mind, I thought it would be easier to read. So I'm going to read from a few different chapters from the rough draft of Wide for the Win. And the chapters are, talking about the fact that I don't hate Amazon, as well as talking about the things that I do hate about Amazon. And so that's basically it's the read of the chapters, but of course, because, hey, it's my podcast, I can do what I want, I ended up inserting my own commentary on top of the actual read, and because it's a draft, it's probably not going to be the exact same in the final version that you see coming out later in March of 2021. And I did get some comments from people from last episode who were pleased to see me go on my rants. And so this is almost, for those of you who enjoy the Mark freaking out, there used to be some of the authors who saw me do this as an editor on stage at a writer workshop called me the Raging Canadian. And so that was it's a tag that several authors I know have tagged me with. So this is kind of like the Raging Canadian or the Raging Podcaster. And I'm raging about Amazon, but I do want to be clear. I love Amazon. I do actually love Amazon, and I love being able to publish books to Amazon. So I actually don't hate them, but there are plenty of things about what they do and their business practices that I absolutely hate. And so we'll get into the rants and me going like way off out of left field or on a tangent. So again, this is just a warning. If you don't like personal rants where I get really, really emotional, then you may want to skip this episode and just go on to the next one, which will most likely be another of the wonderful interviews that I have in the queue. But again, like I said, didn't have time to do all the editing that comes with that. But, just sitting here and ranting in front of a microphone, well, it's a lot easier and a lot quicker for me to do. So without further ado, let's get on to my ranting, shall we? Pet peeves about Kindle exclusivity. Amazon's exclusivity program is called KDP Select, not KU. Hearing people refer to Amazon exclusivity as being in KU raises my hackles in a similar way as to when I hear someone refer to the monster Mary Shelley wrote about as Frankenstein rather than Frankenstein's monster. And let's admit, KU is a bit of a monster, so is KDP Select. Anyways, that's an aside. It also frustrates me the way those who refer to Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet as a romance rather than a tragedy, because I think KDP Select is a bit of a tragedy. But that's another aside. KU is a term many authors use to denote exclusivity to Amazon Kindle. Likely because some author who is a major influencer used it once and then two other people used it and so on, and then it became a trend. If you are logged onto your Kindle Direct Publishing account and look at a book, you'll see very clearly that the option, which is blatantly faced in numerous locations all over the place like candy at a checkout counter, is to enroll in KDP Select. Doesn't say KU anywhere. KDP Select was launched in December of 2011. Kindle Unlimited, also known as KU, was launched in 2014. I still have the email from Amazon announcing KDP Select. It was mentioned in the Kindle Direct Publishing Newsletter, Volume 9, December 2011. Years later, Amazon then adapted that US-only Kindle Owners Lending Library into the Kindle Unlimited program. That launched in July of 2014. And that was admittedly a game changer for many self-published authors. It led to plenty of dollars in plenty of author pockets. It was also a game inducer for many as well, with plenty of scam artists seeking to exploit and game the terms of the program. And it, of course, became a constant topic for debate in the self-publishing community. But since this is my book, and it's my little moment to hold the conch, I wanted to share my pet peeve about the common use of KU to denote exclusivity. You'll understand my frustration a bit better, I think, in the next section of this chapter. But do know that it irks me the way that the proliferation of the your, Y-O-U-R, where people truly mean your, Y-O-U apostrophe R-E, as in short for you are, sends me into an overreacting type of tailspin. It's no wonder I have no hair. I've pulled it all out. And I know Despite me standing here and stomping my feet in protest, people will continue to take the lazy route for referring to exclusivity with Amazon. At least I made my small stand. Makes me feel better, at least. But I suppose that, like the creature who is the creation or effect of Dr. Victor Frankenstein in Shelley's classic novel, incorrectly called Frankenstein instead of Frankenstein's monster, the term KU is also a side effect. Being in KU is a side effect of being exclusive to Kindle via KDP Select. And it is seen by folks as a monster. When I know that the real monster isn't a subscription program, it's the program that forces authors to be exclusive in order to be part of that subscription program. The real monster is KDP Select, just like the real monster in Shelley's book is Dr. Frankenstein. An ill-fated side effect of misunderstandings that has proliferated books and literature for centuries. No different, perhaps, than the way that you see people referring to Shakespeare's classic tale of star-crossed lovers as a romance rather than a tragedy. While we're on the subject, by the way, people also often refer to that play's famous balcony scene, despite the fact that in the original text of the play, there's no mention of a balcony. Juliet, and I quote, appears above at a window. The balcony was likely added for some later stage performance, which then became immortalized in a painting and is yet another misrepresented part of cultural history. The way I suspect that one pundit in the indie author publishing space used KU to denote KDP Select, and the masses followed suit. Like 10-year-old boys playing soccer, chasing the ball across the field. And I'm sure that despite my protesting too much, to refer to Shakespeare, I'm sure that in time the use of KU to denote KDP Select's exclusivity program will continue to reign supreme. In the meantime, I'll be over here in the corner of the bar with a huge scowl on my face and opening another beer to try to mask my frustration when in public. My biggest pet peeve about Amazon exclusivity. The previous segment of this chapter was more of a personal issue that I have with the way many authors in the indie community refer to the Amazon ebook exclusivity program as KU rather than KDP Select. But here's a more serious one, and another fundamental reason why I am a loud anti-KDP Select critic. Although some would probably call me an anti-KU critic. There are plenty of traditionally published titles available in the Kindle Unlimited program that are not exclusive to Amazon. This means that Amazon is allowing large publishers to enroll titles in the Kindle Unlimited reading program without the requirement of exclusivity. And yet, self-published or indie authors publishing Amazon via Kindle Direct Publishing are forced to be exclusive in order to be in and to benefit from that program. Yes, plenty of authors make good money, great money, phenomenal loads of money from being in Kindle Unlimited. That's a good thing. But why is it tainted with such a bad thing? Why is Amazon requiring indie authors to be exclusive when they're not requiring the same thing of the major publishers? That bugs me. It really bugs me. It's favoritism and classist, and it's actually preventing indie authors from growing their business wide. It's actually creating a split in the mentality of the indie author community, which is reducing the power of indie authors working and collaborating together. When I was running Kobo Writing Life for Kobo, I worked really hard to build tools and processes so that a self-published author had access to as many of the resources and opportunities that the large publishers did. Speaking of Kobo, they have an all-you-can-read subscription program too, Kobo Plus, which is available in selected regions of the world. At the time of this writing, it exists in Netherlands, Belgium, and Canada. Publishers and self-published indie authors alike, regardless of whether they're publishing direct through Kobo Writing Life or using a third-party distributor like Draft Digital or Smashwords, can opt into the program to reach a different customer base without any pre-requirement of exclusivity. It's a much better option for authors that doesn't back them into a corner. I know Amazon has the technology to allow this. It's simple technology. It's an opt-in button. There's lots of opt-ins that don't require exclusivity. It would be a much better potential of available titles for readers who are part of that program. Because to me, in an all things being equal sort of environment, the reader wins. There's no need to force one type of published book into a program where others can access that program without the same restrictions. It's dirty. It's underhanded. It's wrong. And it pisses me off. I don't hate Amazon. Because I'm often critical of some of the things that Amazon does, like forcing authors to choose between exclusivity to them versus wide publishing, people often assume that I hate Amazon. Well, maybe it's because I rant a lot and I'm very vocal about it. I suppose in the divisive world we've created, one often assumes that standing up for one thing means you have to hate something else. It's that kind of simplistic thinking that leads people to reflexively reply, "All lives matter," in response to the desperate reminder that Black lives matter. Of course all lives matter. That's a given, you moron. But those who take offense to the urgent plea from a demographic of Western civilization that continues to suffer from systemic racism are missing the point. The reason why that has to be clearly stated in the first place. Because it's not evident to everyone that Black lives matter. Sure, in the past I've gone head-to-head with Amazon's lawyers in the Canadian Parliament and on national television when I was leading the Canadian Booksellers Association. I've struggled against their cutthroat business practices and bottomless pockets as an independent bookseller and fought their predatory ways of luring authors over to the dark side as an ebook retailer. But I don't hate Amazon. I respect the powerhouse company and acknowledge the incredible disruption Amazon has brought to publishing. Reading Brad Stone's The Everything Store, Jeff Bezos and the Age of Amazon, endowed me with a deep-rooted respect for the man behind the company. Having sat on panels with and interacted with numerous Amazon employees over the years at different writer conferences around the world, people I respect and admire, I know that there are good people who work at Amazon. And as an author, I have, of course, benefited from Amazon, both on my traditionally published books as well as my self-published titles. So no, Virginia, I don't hate Amazon. And no, I don't want to see Amazon fail. I'm delighted whenever I see authors finding success on Amazon. I just want to see authors have success on other platforms as well. It doesn't mean I hate Amazon. But I do hate Amazon's exclusivity program. I hate the fear that it cultivates in authors, even those who are successful within the program. What if my exclusive books show up in another website and they shut down my account? What if they change X about Y about the book item page, which removes my ability to buy my way to Amazon success? When will all the things I've studied and learned about how to game the Amazon algorithms, because hell knows that's pretty much all books about publishing are always about Amazon. When is that going to change? And the algorithms are going to change, and my benefits and everything I've worked for change because I've focused my entire life on Amazon. Marsha. Okay, I got carried away there, sorry. Exclusivity creates a terrifying scarcity mindset that builds anxiety, and I hate that. And I particularly hate the way that Amazon exclusivity regularly forces authors into an unnecessary downward spiral of an us versus them mentality. I hate all those things with a deep passion that I'm sure you can hear in my voice. But I don't hate Amazon. Well, that's it for the ranting for this episode of the Stark Reflections podcast. I hope you're able to bear with me and I didn't put you off too much in my screaming and mockery and all the things that I did as I was getting violently emotional. Some of those rants you'll find in the forthcoming book, Wide for the Win, which you can find at books2read.com/wide for the win, because, I try to make it easy for people. It'll be available at all retailers in a print and ebook format. And if I can bear doing the audiobook without screaming and ranting and walking too much, there'll probably be an audiobook. Who knows when it's going to come out. Let's be honest. It's a heck of a lot of work. And because it's nonfiction in this category, same sort of category as this podcast, it probably makes the most sense for it to be in my voice. Come on, I voice things, become easier for me, please, in the near future, so I can actually just do that. But as I said, that's it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. If you've bared with me and stuck with me, thank you for continuing to stick with me throughout the rants and the highs and lows. If you are a patron of the podcast, thank you so much for your patronage. It means a lot to me that you offer up $1, $3, or $5 a month for access to additional content and to show me that you love the podcast and want it to continue. As I said, that's it for the podcast. Thanks again for listening. If you want to help me out, you can leave a review for the podcast over on the podcatcher of your choice, or better yet, tell a friend that you think would enjoy the interviews or the rants or any of the things that I share on the podcast with a friend that you think would find that valuable. Thanks again for listening. So until next weekend, next episode, this is Mark Leslie Lefebvre wishing you great writing, interesting and thought-provoking rants, and good Stark Reflections.
Thank you for listening to the Stark Reflections podcast. You can find show notes for each episode at starkreflections.ca.
The music for this podcast, Laser Groove, was composed and produced by Kevin MacLeod. Check out more of Kevin's great music at incomptech.com.